No games for old men.
So the wet palette that I'm using,
Yes.
I did dispose of the thicker sheet that came with it. It was well used anyway, so it was time for it to go and be replaced. I did use a baking parchment that I cut to size and fit in here. And it's working because, I mean, the paints that are sitting in here are several days old and they're still
Workable,
except for the fact that the paper is like warping and lifting up off the sponge.
It just needs to be wetter.
Which is still wet.
Is it really wet though?
Yeah, and it probably could. But what I'm saying is that, like, even after a day, like, I'll paint, put the lid on it, go to bed, get up in the morning, and the paper is like warped and whatnot, and I feel underneath the sponge is very wet. The paper itself, I don't know, I don't want to I've got paint on it, so I can't wet the paper from the top. What's the solution to that? There's also milky whiteness appearing on the tops of the blobs of paint, which tells me that they're separating.
Yes,
So
that happens.
I just mix those up.
Yeah, that's going to happen no matter what. You're going to get that separation.
Okay.
But that mixes together, as you've seen. You live in a much drier climate than I do. So when I had my original wet palette, I would get that kind of warping at the edges. And the only way that I could make that work was to apply water directly to those edges. So I would use just a little spigot and just curl the edges. And that would be safe.
I did put, well, you're not gonna be able, I was gonna hold it up for you, but you can't see. Actually, you kind of
I can totally see that. Yeah.
I've got coins
I bet
in the
that helps a lot.
corners to hold the paper down, but it's not helping as much. I started with pennies and the pennies weren't heavy enough, so now I've got a nickel and a penny on top. So I've got 6 cents per corner. I might have to switch to something even heavier though.
Yeah, if you've got a couple bucks to spare, it might not be a bad idea to get like the Red Grass Games or Army Painter large size wet palette papers, because they're the right size for your thing.
This is 8. Hold on, I gotta get my measuring tape. I think it's like 8.5 by 7.
Yeah,
is this wet palette?
So you want like the super palette from Red Grass Games or something like that, and those bigger papers will fit that, and they're just, they're made specifically for it. So like, when I put my stuff down, I lay down the paper and it will curl up as it initially gets wet, and then as it gets saturated, it rolls out completely. And so it just lays down naturally. With parchment, it is fiddly. You just have to keep everything, like that sponge underneath can't be damp. It has to be soaked. Like there should be a ring. There should be a ring of water. Like just visible.
Really?
It just takes a lot.
There needs to be standing water in the sponge reservoir.
Correct.
Okay, because I would wet the sponge and then kind of like wring it out.
Oh God, no. Oh no.
And then put it at the bottom.
Absolutely soaked.
Okay, well,
yeah, like if I
part of my problem, then I'm not using it right.
It'll spill out.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah,
good to know. It has been very useful though.
I bet.
Once I got the paints shaken enough, there's a few that still aren't behaving properly, but for the most part, the paints that I've been using, shake the heck out of them for a couple of minutes, and then they're remixed in the pot. And I've got the little squirter bottles from Army Painter, so I can just squirt out a little bit that I need, and then I'm good. So okay, good. Soak the sponge. That's my problem. And then I think I am going to go to a game store and see if they've got the parchment papers.
Having it soak though is going to be that you're going to notice a difference right away. That might be enough for you.
Okay, well, I'll try that first then, because it's time to swap this paper out anyway, so I'll reset everything up.
Dude, I'll be mid paint and I'll roll up I'll like literally just find a corner that I haven't done too much work on, and then just pour water into the reservoir and onto the moisture thing, and then just kind of lean it around so it spreads all the way through. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you are in Southern California, which means you're done painting, right? Oh no, what happened? You said you were done.
Life happened, and I got done with so much stuff, and then I couldn't finish the last two. Oh, thank you very much. I couldn't finish my Geller or my Keller morph, and I didn't finish my
Oh.
sniper. You're gonna see them, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, those look like they're really close, though," because they are.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're not done.
Are they not done by anybody's standards or just your high standards? Are they table ready?
They're table ready.
Most people aren't probably going to notice then.
They're going
I
to
would
notice
think.
that my Killer Morph's guns are currently matte black because apparently he's a goth. But but like the skins are done. I didn't finish the eyes yet on the Keller Morph, but because of his bandana and his skin, unless we get real close on it, it's not going to be an issue. I've shaded the chitin arms, but they need to be highlit. They need their edges and they need their extra colors.
Okay.
The metal of his armor hood is really darkened because that's all shaded, and I hadn't done that part yet. His tunic, again, everything got shaded, nothing, but it needs its recolor highlights and final highlights. So right now, like, it'll be fine, but it's not done.
You're already talking about a lot more work than you said you were going to put into these at the start. You said you were going to do color, highlight, done.
Yeah, no, I can't.
You even made that.
It,
you even made that motion. Color, highlight, is the.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's an exact quote from episode 1.
Please put that right here.
So,
Color, highlight.
That didn't fly. I didn't. I
you couldn't allow yourself to do that.
I couldn't.
You
well,
had
I
to
started
do
to
a good
get
job.
attached to them.
Of course.
So
Of course.
like after we did the name thing, and I was like, oh yeah, they all have names, even though they're ripped off from the first thing. Like all of a sudden, these became characters. And especially when I finished the Sanctus Talon, it was like, well, could I have spent like hours more on him? Yeah, but like this looks really good for a game piece, and he's got a name, and he's gonna just slice up some orcs. It's gonna be a good time. So
Good.
Yeah, so after that it was like, well, I can't not just do them up then. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're putting a lot more effort into them than you said you were originally. So again, your standards are high.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see what you think of them when you see them in person versus the photos, because I'm really bad at miniature photography. And so I don't think they look the same in pictures as they do in real life.
I had the same feeling when I took a picture of, I was really talking up the orc knob surgical site on his arm last episode, and I put a picture of it in the video. And when I looked at it, then I was like, oh, that doesn't actually look as good as I thought it did. But when I see it in like IRL, I'm looking at the mini, it looks really good because it's a mini and you're seeing it from a distance. Then it looks really good. But like super close up, I noticed like a really hard line on what I thought was something I had blended that I just didn't get to.
Okay, so yeah, but you say that, but you'd made some descriptive things that I didn't see originally until you mentioned them, and then I knew to look for them in the picture. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. When you know what you're looking at, sometimes it helps make that more defined, especially for images, especially for close-up images.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm anxious to see them.
Here's my little guy.
I feel like that's the only one we've seen. How are the other ones coming?
Again, I have much higher standards than my painting ability will allow for right now. So they're probably table ready for, but
what
not
we're doing.
Not from my perspective. Oh no, they're not ready at all. But I, think there's work that I want to do that is probably not necessary, but highlighting and things. And because I've chosen dark clothing for them, like black, and dark green because they're commandos.
Right.
So when I'm looking at them on their black bases, because I haven't based them yet either, I'm like, wow, that is a really unfinished miniature. But once I base them, that'll set apart, because I'm going to do like a light brown, probably like sandy base. So that will set apart. That'll contrast well with the black clothing. But then if I'm just looking at the black clothing, I'm thinking, I need to figure out how to add some punch to those. And I think that's where my current reduced level of painting talent is not allowing me to. I guess I just don't understand how to make black clothing still look black, but also defined.
Well, the key to that is like a hard contrast color. So I have different recipes for black, and these are quick blacks, depending on what it is. So if it's a fabric, I will do blue based grays in varying degrees. So like so I steal from comic books because they used to highlight black with blue. So so what I do is I use a blue based gray. So this is like Space Wolf's gray. They've got so many different names now, and I don't have my paints with me, so I can't refer to them. But like, yeah, so like those, and then I go up from there. But then a really great Citadel paint for this is actually Dark Reaper or Incubi Darkness. Dark Reaper is a scaled up, like just lighter than charcoal gray that is kind of like a perfect highlight mid-step for clothing, especially, that you can just drop on it. So like for my Imperial Guard guys, that's their boot highlight is Dark Reaper. And I don't have to do much more because it's the boot, so it's not requiring a whole lot of attention. And then I can do one more step up if I need to, of like Eshin Gray or something, which is just a little bit lighter. Now, Incubi Darkness is green based, and so that's really good for like leathers or metals or things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Are you talking edge highlights that you're using this for, or is this like the base?
It's really better for like a chunky highlight. And then you can do one more color on top of it.
Oh, God. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for edge highlights, I usually use something a little lighter.
It's generally, right? Because that helps it stand out.
But when you're doing like the shine on the front of a boot, that's going to be pretty chunky. So I can get a sweep on the front of the boot, and that something like Dark Reaper or Incubi Darkness works really well on that.
Okay. What's your procedure for that? Is it you just taking a brush stroke, or do you try to like blend it, or what's your style?
Yeah, I'm a layer guy. I don't blend great. And it's because it's a skill that I just never really learned. And I don't, I have patience until I don't have patience. So, and I think we used to talk about this years and years and years ago. I kind of cell shade almost when I paint my stuff. So I'll have really hard contrast points between things. And so like, if I'm doing a boot, let's just say a black boot, I'll paint the whole thing black. I'll hit the creases and like the laces or the buckles or whatever it is with a chunky highlight of like Dark Reaper. And then if there are any metal bits on it, then I'll hit that with whatever metal color I'm using. And then if it needs something else, then I'll use a darker or a lighter final color just to kind of hit those edge points or anything that needs to be super defined. And then it's done. But like with skin, I will just do really, really heavy contrast layers that are usually 3 to 6 colors deep. So it'll kind of come through.
3 to 6 colors. What do you mean by that?
So I'll have like a really dark color as the base. And then I'll just slowly start building up layers of lighter colors up to my brightest.
Okay.
Yeah, so like my dark skin tones end up with like a terracotta at the very top. And then my lighter skin tones will end in some kind of like really bright elf flesh at the pointiest points.
Right. the tip of the nose and top of the eye, the brow.
Even my bronzed folks will end up with like a really like defined like highlight.
Yeah.
But I've been working.
Well, you need
on
a little like, you need
tones.
A perspiration sheen. You know, these
right.
guys are these guys are in combat. They're not powder fresh.
Yeah. And I make a really big effort to make sure that I've got a variety of skin tones. You'll see it even in the Gene Stealer cult. Nobody's monochrome. There's not a single tone that goes along with it. It's everybody. Some have darker skin, some have lighter skin.
Last episode, I had mentioned a painter that I saw on Instagram who painted an orc in really vibrant colors, and I really liked it. And you had mentioned, is it Dana Howell?
Yes.
It was not Dana Howell, but I did look up Dana Howell because I was unfamiliar with her, and I really like her work.
She's really great.
So check out Dana Howell, everybody. Howell, Howl, no, HOWL. Like, I looked up HOWELL, like the last name, which might actually be her last name. I don't know. But anyway, the person is unknown_shaman. And I took a screenshot. I don't know if you can, is that focusing?
It's focusing enough. Yeah.
But see how like
it's blurry, but I
see how there's like a bright purple
and the yellow
on there, and
really
the yellow, and there's like a red over on like the weapon on the arm there.
Yeah.
Just really bright. And it looks so good. It looks, I was really impressed by that. This person, and I see the Siege Studios logo in the corner there. So maybe this person
probably worked for Siege,
worked for, or maybe it was a commission piece. I don't know, but anyhow, that's who it was. I just wanted to get that out there. I wanted to give that person credit since I mentioned their piece.
That is a good call. I like the fact that we actually talk about other people's stuff here and can like throw out some recommendations, because
they're better than my work.
Well, more than that, I've noticed that a lot of people kind of get proprietary about like not necessarily being super open about sharing things on stuff, or making up straight up recommendations. And I get that from a brand perspective of like trying to keep things kind of in-house, but like what it is, we're fanboys. I like sharing the things.
I'm more community minded in this sense, so I'm perfectly willing to shout out other artists, especially ones that are so good. I mean, because there's inspiration there. I think there's probably some people, hopefully there's some people that are watching this who are of a similar skill level to me. Either they're beginners or they're returning to the hobby after a long absence, and they just don't feel like their talent is there, is they're back to where they were or is there yet. And that's okay. Just keep going, keep painting, and then use these other painters, these really good ones, as inspiration. That's a mark for you to reach, not, oh, I'll never be that good, so I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
Don't have that attitude of it.
Yeah.
Aspire to be that good and practice, because their first minis all sucked. I feel like I'm regurgitating what I said a few episodes ago. But anyway, I just want to drive that point home because that's how I feel.
You may have said it once before, but it bears repeating, because it is a real easy thing for hobby folks to get stuck in, is that imposter syndrome, or aspiring to do, like, even when you're even myself, when I'm competing against myself about making sure that I can get to a certain level of something, like how I used to paint versus how I paint now. Like it's going to be a constant struggle if that aspect of the hobby is important to you. If you just want things to play with, then you're going to be fine with the prime, color, shade, highlight. But
that's even twice as much work as
prime, airbrush, gradient,
zenithal highlights. I just learned that term recently. I kept hearing people say it, but I wasn't seeing an example of it when they were talking about it. They would just say, oh, here's my process. I do this and I do that. And at some point they'd say zenithal highlight, but then they're painting the mini already. I'm like, what is that word? And then I saw somebody actually do it on camera. So, okay. Oh, zenith. like as in the sun's zenith directly above that. Now it makes sense.
Mhm.
I wasn't spelling the word right in my head, so
Right.
I wasn't understanding what they were saying. That's a new technique. I've never come across that before.
It's relatively recent. Yeah, this makes me feel like an old man. Like it is second nature to everybody who's currently in the hobby to do this.
Right.
But like
Right.
you asked this 20 years ago, like I remember when it was a recommendation by like high level painters to prime black or dark gray and then do a downward only dry brush of white or light gray to do the same thing. But
Right.
it was a downward dry brush.
Just in case there's anybody like me who doesn't know zenithal highlighting. So what it is you prime your miniature and then you take a lighter color. Usually what I've seen is with a rattle can of a lighter color, maybe a light gray or a white, and then you gently spray from the top of the miniature down, simulating light from the sun at its zenith directly above the miniature. So you see where natural light would hit that miniature, so you know where to put. It kind of guides you on how to highlight your miniature. So that's what the term is. If there's anybody like me who's going, I still don't know what zenithal highlighting is. You haven't defined it. You're doing the same thing. Well, that's what it is. All right. So any other updates or anything? Did you bring paints with you, or they're just okay? Your guys are what
my
they
guys are what
You're
they
gonna play.
are.
Okay.
11 of them are varnished and finished and ready, and then the last 2 are just going to show up to work half dressed.
That's fine.
And,
They had a rough night at the bar the night before. Well, then in that case, I will see you on Friday.
Yes, and should we pimp out where we're going to be in case anybody wants to come watch the madness?
Nope.
No,
Absolutely not.
No games for old men.
like and subscribe.